Here's what I want to do today. I want to go over the cover letters a little bit, very briefly, some remarks on that. I want to look at multimodality and the arguments we have for that. And then I want to start giving us an opportunity to work on Friday's discussion forum in class, which is a research topic proposal. This week is kind of a lighter week in this class for reading and for the discussion forum. Is a pretty easy one, relatively speaking, on Friday. And so that's kind of good. You guys have been working really hard on this class, I feel like, and we're going to it's going to be a little lighter of a course load this week and in the coming weeks, which is good. Okay, so first note on the cover letters, they were awesome. I think this class, the 2 p.m. class, had the highest class average out of any of my classes. I think the average in this class was a 92, which is crazy. A lot of good and a lot of excellent letters. One thing that we all did really well was communicate that we're excited to work on the job, and I definitely got the sense that everybody wanted the job. What I want to emphasize for your notes on how to write a good cover letter, and everybody also focused on the employer and what they were going to offer the employer. That was great. So I think we got the big idea on it. What I didn't see enough of was there's two things. One, if I couldn't tell what you would be doing on a day-to-day basis from your letter, it was hard to get an A on this assignment. So like, I should really know, and you should be able to articulate what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. Those big picture, passionate goals, like I want to change the world, I want to make this a better place, I want to do these things, I want to help one child at a time, like a lot of these amazing pathos appeals that you guys had. That's like in the big picture. I want you to kind of bring it down to earth and argue, I can do this, 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 and this for you. You could also be more specific in general. I found myself saying, be specific, be specific. Like if you talk about work experience, be specific about what that work experience is. And then there were some editing errors in there as well. So kind of some editing, that cover letter is one place that you just do not want to have any kind of editing errors. It should be really easy to read. On the whole, those are pretty good, but those are ways that I think we can improve. My big takeaway, and I'm curious about what your takeaway from this assignment was, but my big takeaway was that the students that seemed like you had a good time writing your letters, like you really enjoyed it, the letters were way better. And when you're into what you're doing, it seemed like they were way better. So for me, like my learning takeaway that I'm practicing is, I feel like when we're enjoying what we're doing, our productivity goes way up, and it's kind of like a more rewarding productivity. And so that's just kind of, I mean, that was for me, my big lesson that I put in my notes in my journal, that the more you enjoy doing what you're doing, the more your productivity seems like it goes up, which I think is a powerful thing to take into consideration. I got through these cover letters pretty quickly. I tried to give you good feedback on them, and in a lot of cases gave you line-by-line edits on the kinds of things I would delete and the kinds of things I would cut out. So if you haven't looked at those, please do, and let me know if you have questions. Any takeaways from your perspective, either after reading my feedback or just in general on the cover letter assignment, professional rhetoric, any of takeaways that you had?
I thought this was probably the most helpful assignment I have ever had in school, because it is actually like a real world application, kind of thing that I can use for the rest of my life.
Good. It's crazy that we don't have more of those. I think the assumption is that all of the kind of writing, like if you're learning how to think better and you're learning how to write better, you can translate that over into the real world, right? But if you don't give a shit about what you're writing about, you don't really get the experience of actually writing. So the first time you actually give a shit about something, like a grad school application or something like that, it's like, oh. So yeah, I agree. I'm always kind of trying to find ways to do things that are more relevant like that. So I appreciate that feedback. It's gonna roll over to the next thing. Other things that you feel like you learned or takeaways? that might be relevant to other people? All right. Well, one of my students in another section, actually the highest grade out of all of my classes, used his cover letter and got 5 interviews and 1 job offer already. So it works. His letter was freaking crazy good. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, stuff does work. Rhetoric is powerful. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I want to engage in an argument basically on how much we should engage in multimodality. So kind of using Ella's comment as a jumping off point. Ideally, we're going to try to use and make, we're going to try to do assignments in this class that are going to be relevant and valuable to you that you can transfer over beyond this class, which is ideally the goal of education in general. But I'm curious, and I have not yet had a chance to look at your forum post that you posted on Friday about multimodality. Multimodal rhetoric. What did you guys, maybe I'm gonna just start sharing my screen. We can do some pros and cons. And the question I have for all of us is, how much should we focus on multimodal rhetoric or not? What did we think? Can I get some paraphrases of what's on the forum? I'm gonna kind of take some notes. So if you are typing in the chat, let me know, just read out if you would.
It's refreshing.
It is refreshing to use it. So that's a pro?
Yeah, it's pro.
Can you say what about it is refreshing or engaging? I don't know if engaging is accurate.
Just not having to like do a normal written text assignment.
Okay, good. Thanks, Trevor. Other ones? Yeah. Boom. Okay, yeah, so we have cons is definitely access for sure. That's a huge one. I'm just going down some of Riley's point in the chat. Thinking, you know, if one of the ways we communicate multimodally is through photographs and videos and other photography and video editing software, it can be we are kind of looking at access issues, not just in the materials, but in the means of production. This is Marx's famous critique of capitalism as the owners of means of production, but whatever. Other ones, yes, pros. I honestly, so the main ones that come up is to think about knowing how to choose what kinds of communication to use, whether or not a message should be delivered as a text or a video or a photo with a caption, so that you can think about that these are all real world skills. I saw an article that was about networking on LinkedIn. #1 medium to create a connection with someone on LinkedIn is a video chat, or you just basically send them a small video. So I could send them a message saying, hi, I found your profile on LinkedIn. I think the work that you're doing is really exciting. I am reaching out to you because I'm a Colorado State student that is thinking about a career in digital marketing, but I'm a little lost to see if I want to go like the freelance route or if I want to go the more like 40 hours a week route. You seem like you work for a great company. I'm wondering if you have any experience and if you can help me out with that. If not, no big deal, but you know, I'd love to set up like a 15-minute conversation with you. I could type all that out, or I could just videotape myself saying that and send them a video. So thinking about communication in that way is beneficial. And I do think we are looking at integration of medium or media is valuable for the way we communicate online. And it can, I do like the idea of giving readers more context. And giving it to them quickly and efficiently. Right, taking a photo is worth 1,000 words. Okay, so I'm hearing, and we can kind of move on here. It seems like, I don't know if this is really taking or not. Should we focus on multimodality? Yes or no? What answer do you think I want you to give? No. The answer is not yes. And the answer is not no. Okay, good. Yay, it depends. So yes, we should, or maybe we should. It depends. And just to make sure, what does multimodality mean? Focusing, so Paul, super smart. When I say focusing on multimodality, what does that mean? It means giving us an opportunity to critically read and critically create. So to process and then create compositions that are in multiple modes. So not just texts. We're talking audio, video, visual, mainly. Those are the main ones, but yeah. And okay, so I just wanted to say another cons is that this is our opportunity to develop advanced writing techniques. Take time to learn. And we should practice more. Writing effective sentences, essays, etc. I'm going to kind of preview we usually think about argument as winning or losing. Or like a yes or no. So I can ask like, hey, should we do multimodal? Should we do multimodal composition in this class? And it's either the answer is yes or no. Or we could think about like, you know, if you think it's yes, you're going to win the argument, and the other person's going to lose. It's going to be like, you know, Lakers Heat, like against each other or whatever. There is another way to think about argument. Can also be a way of, so instead of, actually I'm just delete this, instead of winning and losing, we could think about discovering and exploring, i.e. instead of yes or no, there is, I can ask under what conditions is it a yes or no? This is what we need in our political discourse oftentimes. Instead of just thinking that the other side is right or wrong, you can think, under what conditions would the other side be right? Under what conditions would I be wrong? Instead of winning or losing, it depends. So basically, like, in the sense that it depends on how, if we should do multimodality, I feel like there's some really big things. Namely, how much support, you could say, how much support will the instructor give us? There's another, it's like, it seems like it's exciting to compose multimodally. Like you might want to create a small documentary video instead of an essay, but then it actually gets to be really difficult. So multimodal compositions can actually be pretty difficult. With a steep learning curve. Marcus asks in the text, can multimodal rhetoric be visual or physical? Yes, physical, kinesthetic, performative. Throwing a rock through someone's window would be multimodal rhetoric. Well, actually, it would just be one mode. That's a horrible example. But yes, it can be physical. It can, that would be your mode of. So it's interesting, like if I write you a physical letter, so here's my little like journal, right? And I write you this letter, and so I write a letter, and then I tear it out of this book, and then I mail it to you. It's not only the words that I'm writing, it's how the page feels when you open it up. That's a really interesting point too, now that I'm thinking about that. If you like getting letters in the mail and there's like following up with people that you apply to is a really big thing, I think we're entering into a world where we really like physical things, especially the longer we're online. It's really nice to get like a physical postcard or a physical thing. So that is another mode. It's very much a mode, an art. Yeah, good. How much support will the instructor give us? How will our work be assessed? And so on and so forth. Okay, so for me, another one is what kind of choices will we have? I am basically going to, I'm just going to move on to try to make this a little more interesting. We are going to, you're going to have the opportunities to compose multimodal texts in this class for the rest of the semester, really. Project 3, let's actually just take a look at this. Okay, the upcoming reading notes calendar, I'm getting ready to post this. Today, we're gonna look at websites, ePortfolios, and an example of an ePortfolio that I made, one of the ones that I've made. We're gonna look at, and then on Wednesday, we're gonna look a little bit more at critical information literacy. So how to trust the information that we find online in an era of fake news and post-fact rhetoric. Then notice you have a lot of student choice readings. So student choice reading from a discipline-specific library database, student choice reading. Week, what's this, 8, 9, week 10, we're gonna do a Rogerian argument and explore different kinds of ways to approach argument. More student choice reading. We're gonna look a little bit more at the powers of visuals to reinforce identity. This is an article about visual representation on dating apps like Tinder. Kind of interesting. More student choice, more things on visuals. And then we're gonna do project 3, which is a PowerPoint. And then project 4, which is a academic essay or a writing of your a mode of your choice. Like you could do a video or a photo montage or something. If you're going to do something that's not an essay, you need to kind of propose what it is you're going to do and outline what your project's going to look like, so that you're going to need to help me assess your work. One of the hard things about doing multimodal work is that it's hard to assess it. It gets to be more artistic, and the conventions or standards whereby I can say this is meeting the expectations or not, or exceeding expectations, gets harder to do. And then we're kind of working on that. And then, so our last reading notes is going to be due after Thanksgiving break, but I set it up so that you can get that done before Thanksgiving break and then have nothing over Thanksgiving break. Let's look at what this means for us where we are now. You are going to be, your final project in the class, project 6, is an electronic portfolio. Otherwise known as a personal website. Is anyone in a program where you have to create a portfolio before you graduate? That's one of the requirements. Do we know?
I already have one for one of my classes.
For education? You're in education? Good. So more disciplines are moving to do this because it's a really easy and handy way for you to basically share what you've done or what you're capable of doing with an employer. The way we're doing the electronic portfolio is that it's about half, or it's less about the electronic portfolio itself and more about you talking about the electronic portfolio. So it's a metacognitive reflection. So you're basically going to say what you learned by putting it together and how it basically came together in your own language. What's going to be on this portfolio is basically putting together the work that you've done or that you will do, like from here to the rest of the class, which is going to have a research component. So you're going to be doing research. You're going to be then creating a PowerPoint presentation that's going to have recorded speech, visuals and text. That's project 3. And then you're going to have a 6 to 8 page researched argument essay, or some other project that's equivalent to that. That's project 4. You're also going to have a welcome page and a contact page. This can be really basic, but this is one of the ways that we're composing multimodally is composing a website. To give you an example of what this might look like. Why are you there? This website is one that I created that basically has the real basic, a welcome page, a research page that shows the research that I've done, a presentation page that houses the presentation. So this is kind of like a, hey, who this is for, research, this is what you're about to, this is what's on this website. I just put a meme in there that a student created that I thought was pretty good. Some research that we've done on the issue that is how to integrate ePortfolios in teaching, a presentation that I gave, which would be your PowerPoint presentation. My project that I did instead of writing an essay was this training seminar on how to best do ePortfolios. And then I posted my reflection on the website itself about what I learned, namely that all good writing is rewriting. that you can amplify a message through simplifying it, make America great again, and we can learn by doing. So we basically, when we do things, we learn. That's the problem with education today, is that we're not doing things that we actually care about. I also, this week, the other reading for this week is a assortment of 50 best personal and professional websites. You do not need to read all of these. In fact, I would only choose the ones that seem interesting to you. I would also recommend, if you haven't been exposed to the rhetoric of @GaryV, he's interesting. It's very interesting for multiple reasons. But he's kind of the master of modern social media marketing. His company, VaynerMedia, is pretty big. John Green is really a great author. He wrote The Fault in Our Stars, make you cry. All of these might not be solo professional website examples. I don't think you need to copy those or really model those, because we're not there yet. We're in the pre-professional stage. It's these student website examples that I think are interesting, in the sense that you're trying to showcase yourself, or at least get practice in showcasing yourself as someone who's engaged in professional and personal development. So these ones, in terms of what I'm hoping that you take notes on, is what seems like is effective or not effective in these websites, what stands out to you, what you might want to copy. This book, Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, he's one of my favorites. He's got an amazing website. You're basically trying to steal what looks like you want to steal, or what's interesting to you. Okay, where is that for us now? That's all long-term picture. Like, you're gonna be, I just wanted to give you a sense of that to see if anything sparks your interest. But all of this starts now with your research, and what you're looking for is an inquiry question. So in your notes, if you want to, this is drafting for the forum as well, you need a research topic. And in that research topic, an inquiry question or a series of inquiry questions. I'm gonna get a little geeky here for you. A good question leads you on a quest. i.e., you're looking for a question that you are genuinely interested in. So you actually want to know the answer to this question. It's a big question in the sense where there's other connected questions to it. I am hoping that you engage your pre-professional identity, i.e., research something that will look good to an employer. Research something that will give you more to talk about in your next cover letter. If you are planning on going to grad school, research something in the field you would like to study. So, for example, I could, in your notes, we can think of the big topic or the field that you want to research in. I'm just going to use mine as an example, and then we're going to shift over to you for the rest of the class. I'm in education, higher education more specifically. And underneath that, I'm interested in multimodality and teaching in digital environments. 2020. And underneath that, I'm interested in this idea of ePortfolios as a way to engage students in their own authentic inquiry and think about how they can present their writing in a way that's accessible to an audience. So I have some questions about this. And my inquiry question is, what's the best way to teach ePortfolios? What should teachers do and not do? So why I wanted to give this example, and I am going to be working on this semester and trying to develop materials, so I would love any and all feedback as we go for the next couple weeks. And this is really, our portfolios aren't really going to come into play until a couple weeks. But I am working in this field. I thought about an issue inside of this field that's interesting to me, a part of that seems interesting to me, and now I have questions related to that I'm going to go try to find the answer to. So you should be able to do the same thing in your notes. What field are you interested in going deeper in? Now, you might have more than one, and in that case, that's totally fine, and it's totally fine for this assignment to actually put them all down and kind of compare which one of these do I actually want to do most. It might be a professional field like construction management. It might be a personal field, like I actually just want to read more, or I'm trying to get better as a poet. Or it could be an academic field, like I actually want to go into microbiology research. And so I'm going to try to get into grad school, so I'd like to write my essay on microbiology. So I actually want to take some time to just start helping you look at what questions you could ask in a field that you are interested in. So can we get some audience participation here and see, like, how can I help? Is anybody having some ideas of what you think you want to do, but you don't know what questions you could ask around it?
Firefighting.
What was that?
Firefighting.
Awesome. Are you curious about anything related to fire? What type of firefighting? Structural or wildland?
Structural.
Okay, so do you have any questions about that before we brainstorm? Or does anybody have any questions about that? Awesome, Ella, we'll get to that. I would look at, so there's a couple questions that we could do. What, you can look at what current debates are there in the blank, fill in the blank here, structural firefighting. So I would put these in our notes because they might help us lead. So I did current debates. You could also look at what issues are there in, this is kind of whatever, in this topic. And I could try to get more specific as well about, like, what aspect of that are we more interested in? If we're thinking about hiring, I like best practices. In structural firefighting. And now there is a possibility of linking this topic, structural firefighting, with something else that you might be interested in or that would look good to a potential employer. Tim Amidon in the English department wrote his dissertation on communication strategies that firefighters use under high stress, low, high interference, high stress, high interference environments. So best communication practices. in structural firefighting. Could also be best communication practices in music marketing, best communication practices in something like that. Any of those seem interesting to you, Trevor, or make you think of anything else connected to that?
Yeah, I like that last one. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So notice how like this takes a while to get to something that's interesting. Music marketing and production. One question on the table: what degrees are best for careers in music marketing and production? What kind of production? Live show production, studio production, both?
I would prefer live, but I honestly have no idea.
We could look at, again, best practices would work here. I like this one, and this one we could, I would do a who question with this one to start out. So we've done what and how for Trevor's ones, or how I could do a how we could communicate. I would go like, who is doing great work in music marketing? Or who, what else could be? And does anybody else have any other ideas about here? We can drop them in the chat. I was kind of designed this as to be a collective brainstorming, but I wanted to give you an idea of like how we can spin off questions here. Who can, oh yeah, that's a good one, Alyssa. Target audience or genre. Who is doing great work in live production, if that world ever comes back? Chance the Rapper's stage production was pretty darn amazing. Radiohead, those are my two favorite shows in terms of live stage production that I have seen. And yeah, you could look at different genres and strategies for effective or cost-effective production. This could also parallel over into like project management or other parallel tracks for music marketing. So like, is there like other skills that are connected to it? It's a really interesting one. A lot of the people that I know that work in this industry kind of fell into it, and or have built around a particular artist or particular act. Like I'm thinking of Pretty Lights, Derek Vincent Smith, and Mammoth Music Group, his like representation, all of that. So it might also be like related to contemporary music marketing. Where could you learn more about this? Connected to artist management, buyer's agents, that kind of thing. I feel like that might be an interesting one if you can do, the first thing I thought of was like case studies, is to try to think about who's doing or like look at campaigns like the last record that you like a Tyler the Creator, or like, I don't know what kind of music you're into, but like what is it, like a case study of something that's worked really, really well? Like what would that be? Graphic design. I made this joke to somebody. It's not really a joke, but I can't remember. I don't listen to her music. She performs as Soccer Mommy. There was a profile of her in the New York Times, and she said, I never would have guessed how much being a moderately successful indie artist was like working in middle management, which is exactly the experience I had over this. Yeah, Brockhampton. There's a lot of project management that goes on in any kind of big operation like that. Like there's a lot of human resource stuff. So human resources, I don't know. I would think about another, you might also, this is an interesting one where if you have another passion besides music marketing, like the environment or something, their cross promotion is really big here too. So if there's like, if you're really interested in the environment or like other kinds of like, that might be the best. What is the best way to market and produce music in 2022, since that's when things are really going to be, or whenever you're going to enter into the field? That would be amazing to see if you were able to bring that to the table to like a small business or small artist. They would probably hire you. Other ones. And I really like, Alyssa, your point that I do think genre really makes a difference. That if you're going to go like classical music production and promotion, it's going to look a lot different. Early childhood education is an awesome one. And this is a good example because it, and like music marketing, there's going to be some parallels in this. This is like a professional one. You're thinking about like actually being in the classroom, right, Maddie?
Yeah.
So I would think my questions is what's the best way to teach? What age group do you really want to teach?
Right now I don't know. I'm leaning towards like toddlers and infants, but I could also go like the preschool route.
Okay, so not pre-kindergarten.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the biggest challenges that you face as a pre-K instructor? This is also like the same kind of thinking you'd be doing in a cover letter. And for your, as we're following along, I know we're talking about early elementary education, but you could do the same thing for your topic. What are the biggest challenges? Oh my God. What are the biggest challenges you face as a blank? Let's go with educator. Biggest challenges you face pre-K? Bodily fluids?
Probably. No, I think it's mostly just developmental because
Yes. Great.
they're like still learning how to do everything.
Is there different philosophies and understanding of how you should help children develop at that age? Like different people think different things, right?
Yeah. There's like a bunch of different theories, so it just
Yes.
kind of depends on how you base them off of that.
Yes. So I feel like if you could go into a situation where they're interviewing you and you could say, oh yeah, I have a portfolio where I compared the major theories of early childhood development and why I ultimately align with the Rudolf Steiner Waldorf method that prioritizes children's individual development. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that one where I could say which theory is best.
You could also, I guess, say which theory fits your like teaching philosophy.
Yes. Could be me too.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, like if you're going to go overboard, like let's say you really wanted to work at a Waldorf school, like that's your goal, you could make your portfolio for that audience. So when you get to interview, be like, oh, I made a website for you.
Yeah, I think I also there's like Reggio Emilia and then
Yes.
there's another one, but what's the other one called? I forget. But most people go but off of Reggio because it's student led, not teacher led, so that's also important.
So like, and that's another one, like if you find something that you like the student led, we could look at problems and solutions with student led education.
There's so many problems.
This is funny. I want to put one up in the music production because this is the one we've encountered. What's the problems with artist led productions and marketing? There's a few. They're like children. Okay, other topics. I think we're out of time. Basically, a couple things we need to say here. One, you need to be able to find some scholarly research on something around it. So there's usually discipline-specific journals that you can, so you need to just be able to do some scholarly research. So don't do something on ghosts, or I don't know, maybe there is scholarly research on ghosts, I don't know. But that's kind of what we're going to work on. I wanted to kind of plant that seed for you to think about what you might want to do your research on. I'm hoping that you find something that you can engage with. And if you can read one of those articles by Wednesday, that's going to help us. I want you to see that you have a choice between you're either reading these two shorter ones, which are easier to read, or you're reading this one longer one on Spreadable Spectacle that's a little more scholarly and a little harder to read. So this is kind of like easier and harder if you want, depending on what kind of a challenge you want. They did in our final parting shot for the day, there's a big study published probably about a decade ago where they interviewed a bunch of shareholders in corporations across a lot of industries, and they gave them a questionnaire of what traits they look for in a CEO. What was the number one trait shareholders said they look for when they were choosing a new CEO? Anyone want to guess? Starts with the C.
Confidence?
Good guess. No. Communication, also a good guess. No. I'll give you another letter. Ooh, culture. No. Conflating stock prices. No. We want real growth here, not just fake paper crook growth. I was going to say something political, but I refrained. We want real growth. Curiosity. Why would curiosity be a most valuable trait for business professionals? Okay, this is my final note of the day. Thanks for sticking around. I'm glad you were here. When you are able to be curious, you find opportunities that other people do not. You find ways to move forward that other people do not. In fact, there's a whole book length argument around why curiosity is the number one skill to have. It's sad that this public school system beats the curiosity out of us by the time we're 9 or 10. So I'm hoping that I can fan the flame of your authentic curiosity a little bit to encourage you to read widely and with just actually being curious about something. Something you don't know, like how do I get in this industry that's hard to get into, like music marketing, is a great place to start. You don't need to know exactly what your question is. If you're following your curiosity, that's good enough for me, at least to start. So I hope that you can be more curious, and I look forward to chatting with you about your topics. And if you want to stay, I mean, if anybody else has any other questions about what they might want to do, or if you want to hear more about music marketing and promotion or production, I could talk to you more about that if you want to stay on. Any other questions? Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Good luck.
Thank you.
See you, Riley.
I would love to hear more about music marketing and production if you have like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Music industry is about people. It's about who you know. Not in the market, not in like the networking sense. It's about people that, okay, so that's one thing I would think about is who do you already know that's working in the industry, or who do you know that you think might have a chance of doing something in 3 or 4 years that you want to work with now without getting paid?
Okay. I would say the only person that I know is also a student.
Great.
But I guess that could get me somewhere.
Yes, I think basically the other thing I was going to say is you're looking for opportunities to do work for free to build up what you can do. Yeah. So, I mean, most people, especially smaller artists, you're not just going to walk into a situation where someone's going to pay you. I mean, you could, but I think if you can build a portfolio of some kind of success where you're able to network or you're able to kind of provide and kind of work on that artist relation side, you basically, if you could launch a successful campaign for an artist and say, it's fine, I don't care. I helped basically this artist go from this many followers, and this is what we did, and this is what happened. I can do that for you, and this is how much it would cost.
Okay, yeah.
That's one way in. Yeah, it's a brutal industry. It's a brutal business.
I mean, I'm currently a biology major, but the longer that, or the more time I spend studying science and biology, the more that I realize I hate it. Yeah. So I've just been thinking like the past few weeks, like something I really care about is music and people. So yeah. I should spend my time studying something that I know that I can have a happy job with, like that I can enjoy myself. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I mean, I'm sure that is subject to change in the future, but thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. And you might also, I know for me, and this is an argument I make with a lot of artists, for myself and other people, it might not be an either or thing. Like being a biology teacher or having like a day job that you can stomach that pays the bills, or that pays the bills for like a few years to give you enough of a nest egg to like launch your own business and not have to stress out about it. Because I can tell you, like, my friends that work full-time in the music business, it's hustling. So I think the other thing for you to consider, and this came up with the friend that I work with in Syncopate Media, he's been freelance graphic designing for like a decade and he hates it. He's fucking burnt out because you're always like, he wants a desk job now. He wants just someone to just tell him what to do and he'll do it. Tell me to make the video, I'll make it.
Yeah. It's just so tough. I feel super lost recently, just like my future, just because like everything is very uncertain right now. But I don't know, I feel like music is something that is going to be around forever, and it's something that so many people enjoy. So I feel like that's a pretty solid market. I mean, obviously science is a very solid market too. I just can't stand it. So
yeah, and you don't need to know. I mean, I think that is like the saving grace of what's going on now, is that everybody doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. So how far are you through your program?
Well, I'm just a sophomore.
Oh.
So I'm barely in there, so I definitely have time to change.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, are you getting good advising? Have you talked to an advisor?
I haven't talked that much to my advisor, but I have an appointment to talk to her on Friday. Good. So hopefully we can get some stuff done then. But yeah, the biology department here is great, but I don't know, it's a lot, and it's super competitive, and everyone is very like, interested in animals. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. I know I wouldn't do well in there. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't think, I mean, I think there's an interesting argument to do something that's going to leave you a lot of options in the future. That's one of the reasons why, like, there's so many paths to music marketing. Like, you literally could do that in so many ways, especially if you're into networking and finding other people you can work for, or finding like other companies you can work for. So I don't know. I think it's hard to say. And I hope I enjoy these kinds of advising conversations. I think they're really fascinating because it's really difficult to be able to make the right decision and to feel good about it. And it'll just burn a lot of energy if you're trying to make the right one, especially because you just won't know. So for me, I would be curiously looking for options that you feel like you can get into that are going to leave you leave you professional leeway. Like, you might want the stability of a really high paying job later.
Definitely.
And not that you couldn't get that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's just hard. Like, I talk to my dad about this all the time, but like, if I do graduate with a degree in biology, like, I know for a fact that I can get a solid, like, well-paying job without even having to go to grad school.
Yep.
But my biggest motivator is, like, I want to do something that I want to do and that I'm happy with. So it's just hard. So maybe I'll do like a biology minor or something. But thank you for talking to me. This has been.
You're welcome.
Computer is about to die, so I need to.
See ya, Ella.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.